The landscape of the lower hive has officially entered the phase of biological liquidation. This is not a drill, it is the flesh overwrite. We are witnessing the arrival of the Tranq necrosis, a chemical reagent known as Xylazine that is currently reformatting the physical hardware of the masses. This is the ultimate visual rage. In cities like Philadelphia and Kensington, the streets have been converted into a live-action Resident Evil set. But this isn't a movie. This is a systemic deletion of the human frame. The user is no longer just losing their mind. They are losing their skin, their muscle, and their bone. The motherboard is rotting while the power is still on. The Tranq necrosis is a tactical masterpiece of the Matrix. It is a veterinary sedative, a tool designed for large animals, now being injected into the human BIOS. The result is a total systemic shutdown of the circulatory system. The flesh begins to die at the injection site and beyond, creating necrotic ulcers that do not heal. This is real-time zombification. The nodes stand in the Tranq, a grotesque, gravity-defying posture where the body is bent at a 90-degree angle, frozen in a chemical trance while the infection eats them from the inside out. The system has realized it doesn't need to kill you quickly. It is much more efficient to let you rot in public as a warning to the rest of the hive. The visual rage of this sector is an absolute sensory trauma. You see our signature character in the cracked hockey mask walking through a suburban park that has been reclaimed by the flesh overwrite. On a clean plastic children's slide, a node is slumped, their forearm a landscape of greenish-black decay. You can see the exposed tendons moving like frayed wires in a short-circuiting machine. The contrast is a psychological hammer. The bright, safe colors of the playground versus the raw biological horror of a human being turning into compost. The mask reflects the sun, but behind it, the architect is documenting the total failure of the biological contract. If you look at your own skin and see the first signs of the chemical burn, if you feel your body becoming a heavy, unresponsive weight, then the flesh overwrite has initiated. Your hardware is being decommissioned. You must execute a hard quarantine immediately. Descend into the description right now and secure your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall capable of defragmenting your physical reality and stopping the necrosis before it reaches your core. Reclaim your biological sovereignty. For the elite few who refuse to be eaten alive by the Matrix's latest reagent, my main channel, IOXY3 Global, is the only terminal where we teach you how to maintain absolute power in a world of rotting nodes. I show you how to return the strength that the Tranq virus is systematically extracting from your very bones. This is where the architect builds a body of steel in a city of decay. The primal grounding of the Tranq crisis is the smell of the living grave. It is the scent of stagnant blood, open wounds, and the sharp clinical tang of the reagent. This is the smell of a species that has lost its immune BIOS. A predator that is rotting while it stands is a predator that has been successfully deleted from the food chain. You are watching the hierarchy of the necropolis. At the top are the architects of the chemical formula. At the bottom are the nodes who have been stripped of their humanity and reduced to a collection of failing organs. The status bar of the city is flashing. Biology, critical, hardware failure. The night in the flesh overwrite zones is a silent, shifting nightmare. The only sounds are the scraping of dragging feet and the occasional wet thud of a node finally hitting the concrete. The Tranq has successfully turned the population into a forest of leaning statues, waiting for the final format. The motherboard is cold. The liquidation of the human frame is archived. The architect turns away from the playground, his boots stepping over the liquid remains of a civilization that forgot how to defend its own skin. The flesh overwrite is the new law of the land. The flesh overwrite has a specific humiliating origin. It is a veterinary script. We are no longer talking about chemicals designed for human interaction. Xylazine, the core of the Tranq infection, was engineered as a sedative for horses and cattle. This is the ultimate Machiavellian downgrade. The Matrix has decided that the user in the lower hive no longer deserves human-grade reagents. By flooding the market with a veterinary anesthetic, the system is literally treating the population like livestock. This is the hierarchy of the stable. If you consume the script of a beast, you lose the BIOS of a man. Your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your cognitive processing are being slowed down to match the physiology of a 500-kilogram animal. The systemic shutdown caused by the veterinary script is why modern medicine is failing to patch the nodes. Because Xylazine is not an opioid, the standard firewalls like Narcan do not work. You can pump a zombie full of emergency recovery code, but the veterinary script will keep running in the background, keeping the lungs suppressed and the heart at a near standstill. This is a zero-day vulnerability in the human hardware. The medical infrastructure is literally unequipped equipped to handle a biological crash of this magnitude. The nodes are dying in the waiting rooms because the doctors are trying to debug a human system, tools meant for a different species. The visual rage of the veterinary downgrade is the absolute loss of dignity. You see our signature character in the clean white hockey mask standing in a dirty industrial warehouse. Around him, the nodes are slumped in the Tranq, their bodies twitching with the involuntary spasms of a dying horse. The contrast is visceral. The precision-engineered high-tech mask of the architect versus the animalistic slumped forms of the masses who have been put out to pasture by the chemical script. The mask reflects the harsh, buzzing fluorescent lights, documenting a world where humans are being managed with the same cold indifference as livestock in a slaughterhouse. If you feel your movements becoming heavy and sluggish, if your thoughts are moving at the speed of a sedated beast, understand that the veterinary script is executing. Your motherboard is being downgraded to a lower-tier hardware profile. You must initiate a human override immediately. Descend into the description right now and secure your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall capable of purging the animal-grade reagents from your BIOS and restoring your status as a sovereign architect. Do not let them treat you like cattle. For those who refuse to be managed by the stable masters, my main channel, AOXE3 Global, is the only terminal where we teach you how to maintain the apex predator BIOS. I show you how to return the strength and the speed that the Tranq virus has systematically extracted from your biology. This is where the architect reclaims his humanity from the ruins of the farm. The primal grounding of this stage is the hierarchy of the stable. In nature, a sedated animal is the first to be consumed by predators. By injecting the veterinary script, the masses have effectively uninstalled their own fight or flight response. They are standing targets, waiting for the system to harvest what remains of their resources. The scent of the veterinary script, the sharp, acrid smell of animal medicine mixed with the stale, sweet odor of rotting, is the smell of a population that has been successfully domesticated for destruction. You are watching a biological downgrade where the user pays to have their own human privilege revoked. The status bar of the social hierarchy is flashing a critical error. The flesh overwrite has turned the city into a vast open-air barn. The invisible executioner is the one who holds the syringe, and every node in the Tranq is just another animal marked for liquidation. The veterinary script is complete. The future has been archived as a livestock report. The architect in the mask walks through the warehouse, his boots silent on the cold concrete, realizing that in a world of horses, the only thing more dangerous than the reagent is the man who still remembers how to be a wolf. The flesh overwrite isn't an accident. It's a logistics miracle. This is necrotic distribution. The Matrix has realized that traditional reagents are too expensive to maintain. By cutting the supply with Xylazine, a substance that is cheap, legal for veterinary use, and highly addictive, the system has optimized the cost per zombie ratio. The urban infrastructure has been hijacked to deliver a product that doesn't just provide a high, but physically anchors the node to a specific coordinate. A man with rotting legs cannot migrate. A man in a Tranq cannot riot. The invisible executioner has turned the city's logistics into a permanent containment zone. This is the geospatial lock. Traditional drug markets relied on movement, but the flesh override relies on stagnation. The nodes congregate in necrotic clusters, specific street corners where the air is thick with the scent of open wounds and chemical waste. These clusters act as biological speed bumps for the rest of the city. The Matrix uses these zones to devaluate territory, clearing out the old BIOS of the neighborhood to make room for a total systemic reformat. You are watching a real estate play executed with biological weapons. The user is the demolition crew, destroying their own body to lower the value of the land they stand on. The visual rage of necrotic distribution is the sight of the supply line. You see our signature character in the cracked hockey mask standing at the edge of a cluster. A delivery vehicle, unmarked, clean, and clinical, drops off a shipment of veterinary scripts to a local distributor. The contrast is a psychological trauma. The high-speed, efficient logistics of the Matrix versus the slow, rotting, stationary reality of the nodes waiting for their dose. The mask reflects the polished chrome of the delivery truck, documenting the precise moment when the flesh overwrite is injected into the neighborhood's motherboard. The user is the final destination in a chain of custody that ends in a grave. If you find your neighborhood being remapped into a grid of necrotic clusters, if the logistics of your life are being dictated by the availability of a reagent, then the geospatial lock is closing. Your motherboard is being anchored to a single sinking ship. You must execute a hard migration of the mind and body. Descend into the description right now and secure your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall capable of defragmenting your environment and restoring your mobility as a sovereign architect. Do not let them rot you in place. For those who refuse to be a stationary resource for the machine, my main channel, Oxy3 Global, is the terminal where we teach you how to navigate the ruins without becoming part of the rubble. I show you how to return the strength and the autonomy that the necrotic distribution has systematically stripped from your biology. This is where the architect moves while the world stands still. The primal grounding of the distribution is the hierarchy of the scavenger. In a necrotic zone, the only economy left is the trade of human remains. You see nodes selling their last possessions, their clothes, and eventually their own health for one more hour of the Tranq lean. The scent of the necrotic distribution, the smell of exhaust fumes, stagnant trash, and the sickly sweet rot of the user is the smell of a terminal market. You are watching a total asset liquidation where the human body is the asset and the algorithm is the liquidator. The invisible executioner doesn't need to hunt, he just needs to manage the inventory. The status bar of the urban motherboard is at 100% saturation. The flesh overwrite has successfully integrated into the logistics of the hive. The necrotic distribution is the new economy of the lower hive, and every node in the cluster is just another line of code in the logistics of decay. The geospatial lock is complete. The future has been archived as a casualty of the grid. The architect in the mask walks away from the cluster, his boots avoiding the black, oily puddles on the pavement, realizing that in a city of anchors, the only way to survive is to be the one who cut the chain. The flesh overwrite has moved beyond the individual dermis and is now executing a social amputation. This is the stage where the biological rot of the node infects the collective bios of the community. In the necrotic clusters, the concept of the pack is being uninstalled in real time. When a human being begins to rot while still breathing, the primal instinct of the surrounding group is not empathy. It is revulsion-based distancing. The Matrix has finally found the ultimate tool to atomize the population. You don't need to build walls to separate people. You just need to make them too physically repulsive to touch, help, or look at. This is the hierarchy of the untouchables. This social amputation is a tactical masterpiece of isolation. In the old world, the user could still find a pack among other users. They shared resources, protected each other from predators, and maintained a shred of human bios. But you cannot form a pack with a zombie whose flesh is falling off the bone. The smell of the necrosis triggers a hardwired quarantine in the brain of every observer. The node is left in absolute biological solitude, rotting in a crowded street while thousands of people step over them. The invisible executioner has successfully deleted the safety in numbers protocol. The individual is now a closed loop of decay, disconnected from the server of human connection. The visual rage of the social amputation is a psychological trauma for any architect still watching. You see our signature character in the cracked hockey mask standing in the middle of a crowded sidewalk. A node is slumped against a storefront, their legs covered in the necrotic overwrite, open to the air and buzzing with flies. The normal people walking by aren't just ignoring the node, they are physically recoiling, their faces contorted in a primal grounding of disgust. The contrast is visceral, the clean, sterile glass of the luxury shops versus the raw, decaying meat of the human being on the pavement. The mask reflects the indifference of the crowd, documenting the precise moment when the social contract is deleted by a scent. If you look at your circle and see that people are pulling away, if the rot of your lifestyle is creating a quarantine zone around your life, then the social amputation has reached your sector. You are being moved to an isolated partition. You must execute a hard cleanse before you are permanently uninstalled from the network. Descend into the description right now and secure your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall capable of defragmenting your social bios and restoring your integrity as a human architect. Do not let the Matrix turn you into a solitary node. For those who refuse to be a pariah in their own city, my main channel, Oxy3 Global, is the only terminal where we teach you how to maintain the apex presence that commands respect, not revulsion. I show you how to return the strength and the magnetism that the flesh overwrite has systematically dissolved. This is where the architect builds his pack from the survivors. The primal grounding of this stage is the death of the grooming instinct. In any high-functioning species, grooming and physical care are the glue of the hierarchy. By inducing Tranq necrosis, this. The system ensures that the user stops caring for their own hardware and that no one else will dare to touch it. The scent of social amputation, the mixture of expensive street perfume, and the overwhelming heavy stench of the living grave is the smell of a society that has successfully amputated its own limbs to save the economy. You are watching a civilization reformat where the user is discarded like a corrupted peripheral that is too dirty to plug back in. The status bar of the human connection is at 0%. The flesh overwrite has successfully liquidated the concept of the family and the tribe. The social amputation is complete. Every node in the necrotic cluster is a solitary island of rot, waiting for the final system shutdown in total isolation. The future has been archived as a collection of disjointed, decaying parts. The architect in the mask walks through the crowd, his presence a hard override of the surrounding apathy, realizing that in a world of lepers, the only person with power is the one who refuses to let his own skin be compromised. The social amputation is the final preparation for the total liquidation of the sector. The sun reaches its zenith over the necrotic grid, illuminating the finality of the format. This is the terminal reset. The flesh overwrite has done its work, leaving a landscape of nodes that are no longer recognizable as human hardware. But for the architect, this is the moment of the hard partition. While the Walking Dead are waiting for their final system shutdown, you are executing the sovereignty protocol. You are realizing that the Tranq virus only has power over those who have surrendered their master keys to the Matrix. The physical decay you see around you is the result of a software failure that started long before the first injection. To stop the rot, you must first purge the code that told you that your biological hardware was disposable. This is the biological reclamation. The terminal reset is a violent, unyielding return to the apex BIOS. It requires a total sector format of your lifestyle, your environment, and your neural pathways. You are looking at the nodes in the Tranq and realizing they are a mirror of what happens when a human being stops being an architect and starts being a user. The invisible executioner thrives on your inertia, but the moment you move, the moment you reclaim your fight or flight response, the algorithm loses its lock. The flesh overwrite cannot take hold in a body that is constantly in motion, constantly upgrading, and constantly defending its own perimeter. If you can still feel the pulse in your neck, if your eyes can still focus on the horizon despite the neural fog, then your motherboard is still functional. The terminal reset is available. You must execute the manual overwrite right now. Descend into the description immediately and finalize your defense. My product is the only tactical instrument capable of defragmenting your physical hardware and building a biofirewall that the necrotic reagent cannot penetrate. Reclaim your skin. For the elite few who intend to lead the reclamation of the hive, my main channel, Ioxy3 Global, is the only place where the true architecture of biological power is revealed. I show you how to find strength in the ruins and how to return the power that the flesh overwrite has systematically stolen from your biography. The stable is open, but the architect has already left the farm. The visual rage of the final reset is the cleansing of the mask. You see our signature character in the reflective hockey mask standing under a high-pressure industrial shower, the water washing away the soot, the chemical dust, and the stench of the necrotic cluster. The contrast is a tactical victory, the raw, purifying force of the water against the dirty, stagnant vapor haze of the lower hive. The mask emerges polished, gleaming like a new server, reflecting not the rot, but the cold blue sky. The user has been deleted. The architect has been reinstalled. Around him, the nodes remain frozen in their decay, but he is already moving toward the next sector, his BIOS clear and his warrior code active. The primal grounding of the terminal reset is the return of sensory integrity. You can smell the difference between the chemical rot and the natural world. You can feel the strength returning to your muscles as the veterinary script is purged from your system. The hierarchy has been re-established. The zombie is at the bottom, the system is the manager, and the architect is the hard override. The scent of the terminal reset, the smell of ozone, cold water, and the sharp, clean air of the high ground is the smell of a species that has refused to be liquidated. You are watching a hardware resurrection where the user chooses to become the master of the machine once again. The status bar of the human spirit is climbing toward 100%. The flesh overwrite has been archived as a system stress test that only the architects survive. The necrotic grid is still there, a reminder of the cost of surrender, but the terminal reset has cleared the path for a new world. The architect in the mask walks out of the industrial zone, his movements precise, his breath deep, and his will unyielding. The flesh overwrite is over for those who have the code. The future is being written in the blood of the survivors. The screen fades to black, the archive is closed, and the resurrection is complete.